We're here to share the 10 books each that we want to read in 2020.
Or book
Did
groups.
we do these in 2019? I don't think
Pretty
so.
sure we did. But
anyway,
but
we
I
skipped a year.
We skipped a year, but no, or we're starting a totally new one, because for me, I understood this to be like, this is the books that 2020 should not like elapse
without reading it.
us reading it. So it's like, put a
exactly
stake in the ground. These have to go.
When I was choosing the 10 books for this year, I was having a really hard time because I couldn't decide. So I decided to like pick the most random categories I could think of, like that I had seen other people like recently talk about or do something related to. And so that's how I ended up with this TBR, which is fun because now it just is like a weird mix of books from my actual TBR.
Yeah, it's like a
earmarked
for the year.
Yeah. So the first thing I did was sort my Goodreads shelf by date. And then I went to look at what book is on that shelf with the oldest date added on it. And that book, actually, it's Tempests and Slaughter by Tamora Pierce. This is a start of a new prequel series that is about Numair Salmelin. This is when he was still in university and basically chronicles his journey towards becoming the Numair we know and love.
One of the most powerful black mage, black robe.
From the Immortal series.
From the Immortal series.
So, that was my first book.
My first book is going to be Red Rising by Pierce Brown.
Ooh, I also
This was a
want to
gift
read
from a
that.
friend. I saw it in BA sort of a lot and thought, man, I kind of really wanted to sort of read this. So his wife taken, his people enslaved, driven by a longing for justice and the memory of lost love, Darrow will stop at nothing to bring down his enemies, even if he must become one of them to do so. So it feels like one of those evil empire rising against whatever.
It's in space.
But in space, so I'm down for that kind of thing. And so I'm really happy to have this book sort of on my pile and shelf. So finally have a copy, and so I'm going to read it. It's going to be cool.
Okay, the second book I'm featuring, I did the opposite, and then I looked at what the newest book I had added to my shelf was. It's Rebel by Marie Lu, which I had somehow forgotten to add on the day that it came out, so it shows as me adding it later onto that shelf, which is fine. Rebel is the fourth and final book that wraps up the Legend formerly trilogy, obviously a quartet now. Still has the same two main characters, but there is a third that joins them, and then the thing that really appeals to me the most is that this one combines stuff from the Legend trilogy, but also the Warcross duology. And I love the Warcross duology, so I'm very interested in that.
My next 2020 must not elapse without me reading would be the Mistborn books.
The first trilogy, at least.
Okay, and the one I have on my Kindle is
it's
just
6.
the first 3 books.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Which is perfect.
And that's fine. So just that one that I had on my Kindle for like ages, that Alexa read, I just want to finally read it because she was
I
like,
was
it's
so
so
impressed.
good. And I'm just like, all right, fine, cool. Mistborn, by the way, for those of you who don't know, it's marginally medieval-esque kind of world where people have the ability to ingest metals and burn them, metabolize them, so that they can have sort of abilities to either push themselves onto things or pull themselves towards things, soothe people's emotions, read people's mind, the kind of deal. And it's one of those rebels versus like an evil empire type deal, and I'm down for that kind of story. So
the next category I came up with is that I sorted the shelves by author name. So the first one I picked is an author whose last name begins with an A, and I ended up with The Girl in the Tower by Catherine Arden. This is the sequel to The Bear and the Nightingale, which I read some time ago but really enjoyed. And it is set in a world that is Russian inspired. It's Russian folklore inspired as well. And it centers around a girl named Vasya. And this is the continuation of her journey. I do not know much more about this, so I am very interested to continue the series. I think winter is also going to be a good time to read it, so I'm hoping to get it read in February. We shall see.
Now, this is a book that has been sitting on my shelf since like my first or my second Comic-Con. You sort of like tend to favor like books that you sort of didn't buy because, you know, they're review books, they sort of come in the mail, or they've got a deadline, they're coming in. So this sat on my shelf for like ever, and it's really cool. And it's called Shadow the Gauntlet by Casey Caracciolo. I'm totally messing that up. It's about a kid, high school. He's gonna end up riding a teleport dragon, duel a high demon of the depths, run with the lions of Sarati, outfox a spirit ghost, race a vampire, and coach Shakespeare with a whiskey-swilling werewolf. All in the hope of discovering the truth about his father.
Wow.
So it's just this madcap bunch of things.
Adventures.
And there's even like a really fun, like in the Skargan series, where you got dragons, robots, wizards, and vampire. I mean, it's just so many things all at the same time.
That you enjoy.
That I enjoy, that I finally I'm like, you know what? We're gonna read you now. Like, it's been long enough.
So I did the flippy thing again, and I looked for the author whose last name begins with a Z. Did not have that, so I went for the next best thing, which is an author whose last name begins with a Y, and I ended up with The Rise of Kyoshi, which is by FC. I'm so excited about this because Kristen read it in 2019 and loved it. And this is basically also sort of like a prequel-ish.
It's totally
novel,
a prequel.
Obviously,
it's about
for the Avatar: The Last Airbender series, because Kyoshi is one of the avatars, and this is her story. And I cannot wait to read it. Oh, it's gonna be so fun. It's gonna be so good. You're like, ugh.
As you can see from the bookmark, I am sort of partway through already. I picked up this book because the series came out with David Tennant. So this is Good Omens by Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett. You already know who's writing which parts, right? So it's a story about a demon and an angel who've known each other since pretty much the banishment of man from the Garden of Eden and have been left in charge of sort of the earth and were informed that the apocalypse was nigh, the Antichrist was going to be born, and so they both look at each other and they're like, I don't really want this all to end. So they conspire to hide the Antichrist away, but then they lose him. And just imagining Michael Sheen playing the angel, who loves like Aziraphale, who loves like, you know, sushi and all things earthly, and you've got like swaggering bad boy David Tennant playing Crowley, buddy copying their way through this ersatz, you know, marriage, so that to prevent the end of the world is just fun. And so I'm partway through. I'm hoping to just read it already, even if I don't watch the series. As long as I read the book, should be fine.
The next book I don't actually own physically because I own it on Kindle, but when I sorted that shelf, I now went for the highest overall Goodreads rating, and this one came in with a 4.57 stars average. That book is The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna, which is a book actually a lot of people I know have read, including my sister. So it is actually a sister story. It's about two sisters and their lives during World War II, I want to say, and they're very different. One of them is more of a homebody, one of them is more of an extrovert, and they both get involved with the war effort in some way. And I really want to read that book. I've wanted to read it for some time now because the story sounds super intriguing, and all of the people I know, including my sister, have really liked it, so I hope I'm going to love it as well.
Now, I've been very good about my New Year's resolutions on a bookish level. This time I'm gonna capitalize on that goodwill and that good mojo, and I'm going to finally finish Throne of Glass series. That's right. These babies right here. Look at that.
It's a massive set.
Yeah, of course I'm not bringing these along.
No,
there's no way
Kindle
I'm carrying.
books. I have all of them.
I'm not carrying any of these on the subway. There's no way. Definitely going to try to finish all of that. It's an interesting story about Selena Sardothian, who is supposedly one of the greatest assassins to have ever lived, but was betrayed and is now in kingly captivity, but is let out on certain conditions that she would obey the kingdom and their wishes. All the while she obeys, she is plotting their demise, and I am for that.
I find it hilarious, actually, that one of the first things Macky said to me about the series was how much he relates to Selena, and I was just like,
I am not ashamed of that in any way, form, or fashion. I'm reading this thing and I'm just like, this woman is very relatable. I would do all of these and more. Like, I would update my Facebook status if I were Selena and there was social media at the time. Currently obeying orders and plotting everyone's demise. That's the level. That's the level, and I'm living for that. Also, it's fun to see her troll Westfall. Anyway, so that's just
my babe.
That's the thing.
So my next book obviously did the flip thing again, and now I'm going for the book with the lowest average Goodreads rating, which is not really that low because it's 3.6, so that's pretty good still. The book in question is The Shattered Court, which is by M.J. Scott, which I picked up forever ago. I'm going to read the back to you because it will describe it way better than I could ever do it. The royal witches of Anglan have bowed to tradition for centuries. If a woman of royal blood manifests powers, she is immediately bound by rites of marriage. She will serve her lord by practicing the tamer magics of the earth, ensuring good harvest and predicting the weather. Any magic more dangerous is forbidden. So the main character is Sophia Kendall. She's 32nd in line to the throne, and she's about to find out, if she's going to manifest with magic. Whether that's a blessing or a curse remains to be seen. But then their kingdom is attacked by enemies and she's forced to flee, and the only person she has with her is a member of the royal guard. Her powers manifest during this escape that they're doing, and now she ends up linked with this guard because of that. Ooh. And now it's basically a race for them to figure out how to keep her safe, but also to decide if she's gonna stand up and fight for the country after the entire assassination attempt stuff, or she's going to get overwhelmed by the power that's supposedly uncontrollable if you're not married. So
wow.
It sounds so good. I know Rachel from Hello Charlie loved this book, so I am super excited to read it.
That marriage controlling your power thing is a crock already, we know that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's total terrible. Obsidio is my next book that I'm going to read. Finally! Oh my God, it's been sitting on my desk for ages.
I gave that to him.
And it's the third book in the Illuminae Files series, where you have Illuminae, which is the story of how a colony is practically murdered
Ooh.
by an evil corporation.
Okay.
And in the attempt to escape
Yeah.
said mining colony, the computer, like the AI for the ship, sort of loses its damn mind and starts to kill everybody on board.
Okay, creepy.
So it's and also because of the evil empire, that sort of like evil corporation that did that. So to have that confluence of events is one, and then as that ship is fleeing in book 2 to a certain space station, said evil empire was going to liquidate said space station, so there would be no witnesses. Badass from that particular space station who lives there decides to sort of kick ass and take names and join the rebels in the conspiracy to document it. Obsidio is the final piece of that. It's when both stories sort of come together. It's taken me a while to get through it, but I am going to do this year. The best part about the series is because it's told in the form of chat transcripts.
Right.
It's dossiers, chat transcripts. Transcripts are video surveillance, and then conversations that have been recorded in court as they are proving their case that the evil corporation is evil and killed everyone. So that's pretty much what that is.
The next category I came up with was a series starter, and for that I picked up Half-Blood by Jennifer L. Armentrout, which I just bought this pretty edition last year, I want to say. 2019 is what I mean.
Very
and
nice.
This is also another Greek mythology inspired YA book. The main character actually shares my name, although it's not exactly my name. Her name is Alexandria, they call her Alex, and she's actually a half-blood, so she's half god, half mortal. And so she ends up, because of like some threat to her life, she ends up returning to a place called the Covenant, which is like a school sort of, and there are a lot of rules at this school, and the half-bloods are there to train as sentinels, basically like guards. She can either do that or become a servant, and obviously she wants to be fighting instead of scrubbing toilets. But she has a lot of problems with how the school is structured, especially because there are a couple of rules that you can't break at the school, and one of them is that halves can't fall in love with purebloods and vice versa, and the problem is she starts crushing on a pureblood, so there's that. But there's also an imminent threat of danger. I really want to read this because I enjoy Jennifer L. Armentrout's books in general, but also I like that this is one with a Greek mythology sort of spin to it. It sort of feels like a throwback to older YA, older like paranormal YA, which I like sometimes, so I'm looking forward to reading the series.
2 more books I want to get rid of for good and say I've done them is The Magicians 2 and 3. I did start The Magicians in 2019, and that was great. And I did read the first book. It's a milder retelling of what is actually happening on TV. I do want to know what happens here. It's a totally different universe, and the lore is marginally similar, though I'm still, for whatever reason, partial to the TV series. Gasp. The blasphemy of liking the visual version instead of the printed, but I am committed to figuring out what the hell happened to these guys. The Magicians is set in an alternate sort of world where in upstate New York there is a magic school, a college for people who have the ability to weave magic. It's kind of like Narnia.
Kind of.
In that there is another magical world that was written by somebody, but it's a little darker. It is in the same way that Game of Thrones is like to The Lord of the Rings, that's what The Magicians is like sort of to the Narnia series, where it's about a bunch of grown-ups and they deal with things like, well, on TV they deal with like terrible things like addiction and rape and all that kind of stuff. And then it's a lot lighter in the books so far. We don't know, maybe this is where they throw down. So hopefully I get rid of these soon.
Flipping that last category the other way, I wanted to finish a series, and for that I picked up The Last Life of Prince Alistair by Alexandra Bracken.
Yeah, that's cute.
I love Alex and her books. This one in particular is a middle grade sort of spooky adventure story. In the first one, there is a boy named Prosper Redding, and it is discovered that his family has made a contract with a demon, and that demon has been housed inside his body this entire time, and so hijinks ensue. This is basically the outcome of all the events in the first book, and I am looking forward to finding out how it all ends.
Awesome. So I may have already also announced that I have I have plans to do the Great Riordan and Nix catch-up. So all books Garth Nix, all books Rick Riordan. So with Rick Riordan, there are a lot of imprints that came out this year. That's great. But I do want to start with I want to say the Magnus Chase and the Trials of Apollo. So those are a little closer to home into the Percy Jackson world, and because they're actually related to the lore.
Yep.
How do we know Magnus Chase is related to the Percy Jackson world? Even if it's about Asgard and all of the, Viking myths and stuff. Yeah, the last name. And I'm just like, are you kidding me? So I am waiting, hoping, praying that Uncle Rick has an Avengers Endgame thing going on for him. Because we've already seen the Percy Jackson crossovers with the Kane Chronicles and the Egyptians.
I'm just waiting.
And all of a sudden you've got Mr. Chase over here who seems to be connected to the demigods of Long Island. Big Rick Riordan stuff. And there have been several Garth Nix books that have been sitting on my shelf for a while now. So, like, for example, we were able to get a copy of all of the Keys to the Kingdom series. It's a kids series. I don't know exactly what they're about, and every single book is named after a particular day of the week. Mr. Monday, Grim Tuesday, Drowned Wednesday, Sir Thursday, Lady Friday, Superior Saturday, Lord Sunday. I almost feel like this is maybe a pantheon.
Maybe. Or
different pantheons, because Drowned Wednesday feels a lot like maybe
sounds more like
thing.
Nearly had this name.
Lady Friday feels like the goddess
keys.
Freya, and they're different keys too, so that's going to be kind of cool. Angel Mage, which is out
most recent
in 2019, which is the most recent release. Newt's Emerald, which is another middle grade offering, right? So I plan to catch up on all of these books.
You can do it
and make sure that happens. So
it's funny that you should talk about catching up on books, because I'm also going to catch up on something. So there's only one book I have not read by this author, and this is the only book. And so I decided that it was going to be added to my list for that reason alone. And the book is Wonder Woman Warbringer by Leigh Bardugo, which I have not read. It is one of the 2 DC Icons books I have not read yet. And this one in particular I feel almost ashamed of, because it's Leigh Bardugo.
And it's the first one that came out.
This basically explores teen Diana.
It's an Elseworld.
I like how you're going to tell the story.
It's an Elseworld. It's set in contemporary times, so definitely the present. So it's not a companion to the movie that just came out, for sure.
It's another origin story.
Origin story for Wonder Woman, and
which
I
love
how they've reimagined her in this one.
I'm so excited.
In this particular, because Leigh Bardugo is awesome. She did some research. Warbringers, like Helen of Troy, have this, thing in them that once they are born, they're cursed with the ability to just upset the balance of the world. And this new Warbringer is someone that Diana sort of gets in touch with and says, where her fate says, I'm meant to set the world on fire the way Helen did. Diana's like, you control your own fate. What the hell are you talking about? And that to me is so powerful. So we'll see how that plays out. My last book would definitely, I don't have a copy of it. It's coming out this year, but I am not, I'm reading this on the day it comes out. It is
Chain of Gold.
Of frickin'
I knew it.
Gold. It's Chain of Gold, and right behind it, as a shadow, which is really what he wants to be anyway, would be Thrawn Ascendancy. Thrawn Ascendancy is about Grand Admiral Thrawn in the earlier days of the Chiss Ascendancy, and how he becomes whatever he was that he is when he went to the Empire. Star Wars fans, that's a long story. Do Google it. It's super fun. But I love Thrawn. He's the best strategist ever. The only reason Palpatine made him any kind of officer was his amazing tactical abilities, and he learns about cultures by studying their art, and that's why he was so powerful as a Grand Admiral.
Interesting.
So his private chambers was an art gallery where he would study all of his enemies, and so if he knew the race of the culture of the people that he was fighting in space, he would shift tactics based on what he knew.
That's awesome.
Hence, why not Thrawn? And of course, Chain of Gold is set in the Shadowhunters universe. The children of the characters from the Infernal Devices, as they have come of age and are doing their own insane kind of things and struggling with their own secrets and terrible madness. That little Shadowhunters Gentlemen's Club is going to be the death of me and Alexa. So,
basically, most Shadowhunters things are.
Looking forward to that in particular.
My last book is the most random one, because what I did was I went into a random number generator, and I was like, what number am I gonna get now? And that's how I picked what I was gonna get on my bookshelf. And the book in question is actually connected to one of Macky's picks. It's actually Illuminae. Because I own the audiobook for Illuminae. Circle. We don't actually own the physical book, but I own the audiobook for it. I am looking forward to reading it. You already know what it's about because Macky already talked about it, but I have heard nothing but praise for that full cast audio, so I cannot wait to check it out for myself.
Hell, I want to listen to the all full cast audio.
Well, you can always borrow it.
That's right.
Those are the 10 books Macky wants to get to in 2020, will get to in 2020. Those are the 10 books that I will also get to in 2020. So wish us luck with our TBRs. Are there any things that you guys intend to read for 2020 that you will not let the year pass by without reading?
Yeah, it's like one of those, even if you read on the very last, December 31st, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. For those of you rent heads out there, you're not gonna let the year go by without reading the last page on that book.
Yeah.
Let us know.
I would love to hear it.
Yeah.
And we'll see you guys with another video soon.
Bye.